Harley, what's up, man? How are you?
Good. How are you doing, Chris?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Dude, really appreciate you taking the time to join the Books4Guys podcast. For those who don't know, Harley and I, we both used to live in Atlanta for a time and went to the same gym. And now Harley's doing some big things out in Colorado, managing a gym out there, Arsenal DTC, and does personal training. And Harley, we connected again. I know we hadn't talked in a long time, but you were doing some cool things, and I've said it on the podcast before. We're having a lot of people on here that are not only authors but are athletes, business leaders, people like yourself who are in the fitness space. But what caught my eye on your Instagram a couple months ago was you doing a book of the month at your gym, and it had me reaching out to you, and I was like, I gotta talk to Harley. He's got the book thing going. I gotta talk to him more about that. And so, man, just dude, good to see you and good to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, man, it was really cool to see you reach out. I mean, we were around each other quite a bit, and that would have been 2020 because I moved to Atlanta in 2020. So, because I had nothing better to do in California when everything was locked down, and I went out there to train at Training Think Tank and got to know you and Shira and that whole community there. And so, since moving away from there to move to Colorado with my now wife, it had been a few years, and I haven't kept in touch with everyone back there. So when I saw your message come through, it, made me smile a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I think we spent a Christmas Eve together one time and hung out a little bit, but it's been a while. But man, that's one of the positives of social media is being able to do things like this. And um dude, well, just kind of talk a little bit about your background. So you're obviously heavy into the fitness space. So you do personal coaching. You also manage a gym there in Colorado. And then talk a little bit. So just kind of talk about your background and how you got in the fitness space. And then talk about, like, again, what caught my eye was you started doing a book of the month at your gym, and talk about why you started incorporating that with that, in that space.
Sounds great, man. Yeah, so when I was in school, I went to school for exercise science. I was pretty passionate about my own sort of fitness endeavors at the time, and I wanted to find a way to, make a career of it because I was already coaching part-time at CrossFit gyms, and I was trying my best to pursue competitive fitness and that CrossFit, as a sport, and wanted to make that my competitive endeavor. At the time, and that would have been around 2017, there was this whole push for like mental coaches, sports, psychology, and their whole message was like trying to find your why and why you're pursuing, fitness or CrossFit as your, sport, or how to optimize your performance, I guess is a better way to say that. And looking at those resources originally, it was through that endeavor of like, how am I going to make myself fitter? And, life throws curveballs at you. And I realized that there was so much more value in it rather than just applying it to, sports performance. And it made me sort of more in touch with myself as a person. And at the time I would have been, 23 years old, just graduating college and just trying to figure out what I wanted to do with myself. And I ended up getting recommended some books on stoicism and from Ryan Holiday and the Daily Stoic from my mom. And that sort of grounded me a bit in the early days. And from there, I just went through, all the popular, like kind of, I guess they'd be coined like self-helps, but philosophical and like mindfulness type of books to get myself more squared and direct in the direction I wanted to go, whether it be fitness and, that career in fitness.
Yeah.
So at the time I was working, after I graduated college, I was working at a gym in the Bay Area for about a year and a half in San Jose, California. It was a pretty popular gym at the time. It was called NC Fit. It was owned by a pretty high level CrossFit Games athlete back in his own day, and it was thriving. And so I had graduated school. I had started sort of working on myself. I got this job at a popular gym, and I thought I was doing the right things. And at that time, I had signed up for Training Think Tank's individualized coaching.
Yeah.
And so I was training what I thought was putting all of my eggs in one basket of like, I'm in the gym pursuing my career. I had gotten an individualized coach. I've taken that approach to the next level. I started reading and consuming more information to try to make myself a better version of who I could become. And then before I knew it, like I felt a little stagnant and I ended up quitting that job and going out to train think tank kind of yearly to try to be exposing myself to the higher level athletes and just figuring out how, like, I already felt like I put all my eggs in one basket, but like, where can I get more eggs and
Yeah.
how do I make my basket bigger type of thing. And then I ended up eventually moving out there in 2020, like we talked about, to really, again, just like continue to level up like my commitment to that process. And that's sort of where I would say like I started to reach my peak of like fitness as a competitor, I would say. It felt that way from a like, this is literally all I can give to this thing, right?
Yeah.
I moved across the country. I quit my coaching job to like train more and be around the people I thought would drive me up there. And then like things kind of got stagnant there, I my motives to move out there were competitive, but I had still a glimmer of hope that maybe I could have gotten like a coaching job out there or
Yeah.
been a part of training think tank as a coach, and nothing ever came to fruition. And I started dating my now wife, and we got together, and she's from Colorado and she wanted to move back home. And so then, since things weren't progressing in all areas there, and I felt like there was something, we had a really good bond. I wanted to pursue that relationship more so than staying put for fitness. And so then I moved up here to Colorado and pursued the fitness here to the best I could, but elevation kind of made it hard on me. It's
Yeah.
hard to breathe up here. And
I've
then,
never worked out in Colorado before, so
dude,
I hear about it, but I've never done it.
the air is thin. It took
Yeah.
me it took me a long time to feel settled. And really, like, now that I've been here for 4 years, like, I understand that my performance here is dampened, to say
Yeah.
the least. And so, I guess fast forward a little bit through the years, and I got settled here. I ended up continuing to try to compete. I was coaching part-time kind of here at a gym and still coaching online with my remote clients, but I was training back by myself, not with that training think tank group. I ended up moving away from their coaching as well, just due to life balance and feeling like I couldn't juggle it all. I started writing my own training, and I inevitably, or sorry, not inevitably, I eventually made semifinals. So that was my goal. That was kind of the limit, the level of competition I wanted to get to. I did it one time as an individual, and then went again the next year on a team. And as life goes on, job responsibilities keep growing. So then
Yeah.
my desire to compete and that work-life balance dwindled a bit. So I stopped competing. And in the year that I stopped competing, I got a job offer to manage a different gym. And so that brings me to today, that I'm, a manager of a location here in Denver. And I feel like even through the years of, it's kind of like a DJ board. I had my 3 sliders: my career, my relationships, and my fitness, my passion, right? At different points, I turned up the dial in certain areas and turned it back down, but I feel like they trended upwards over time, right? Like
Yeah.
as a whole. So that's kind of the background of my competitive and career development. Now to wrap it back in, like to books, right? You asked me to talk about how I made a book of the month post. At the previous gym I was at, we were trying to brainstorm ways that we could create engagement and get the gym's name out there more, just what
Yeah.
we could post on Instagram that would be valuable to people. And I came up with the book of the month because through my own endeavors of pursuing fitness, and myself and my career, I understood how much value the pursuit of knowledge, how much value there was in pursuing knowledge along with fitness. And that I also understood that training is primarily for the physical, but performance and really expressing your training on game day really was psychological. And that if you didn't work on the mental side in line with the physical side, you were going to leave something on the table. So I thought of, a book of the month, informal book club, if you will. Like we didn't ever have meetings. I just would make a post, a video of me just saying, hey, here's the book. This is the author. Here's, sometimes I would talk more than others. And honestly, the more I talked about the book, I felt like it just was worse, You had like one or two little bullet points about it. I give an action item that you could take away from the teachings. The one that comes to my mind is Atomic Habits. That was my second book of the year. And I was like, hey, here, create a habit tracker. So each day, just like make a actionable item that you can do each day and track it. And if you do it, give yourself a gold star each day, and try to change the way that you're living and your lifestyle through that, actionable item of the book. So as you kind of, as I'm kind of alluding to, a lot of the books are around weight, mindfulness, or nonfiction, practical, useful things that you can apply to not just fitness, but lifestyle, the way you approach work, the way you approach your relationships, the way you look at, life.
Yeah.
I haven't actually done a fiction book. So
Yeah.
maybe that's where the next expansion is. Everything I've posted so far, we're on month 9 now. So I posted 9 of them. They've all been nonfiction and sort of in that mindfulness of sort of category.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. I'll show you this one. Maybe a good one to share with your gym, but the Swords of Elimination, it's actually a personal development book, but it kind of talks
Nice.
about some of the stuff you were talking about. So it is a personal development book, but it's written in more of like a fiction type of way. It's a story, but it talks
Right.
about the balance wheel, kind of like you were talking about your DJ board. It's talking about like faith, your fitness, your finances, your just all like trying to keep everything in balance on the wheel. If one spoke is kind of messed up, obviously your bike's not going as smoothly as it could, but it kind of, similar topic there of what you were saying just in your personal life. It's one that actually just finished that I've been recommending to people because it's, again, personal development, but if you want to like say you did a fiction book, it's kind of fiction too. So the story of it, but man, it's
Have
cool how
you
you talk about like, because fitness and reading are kind of similar things. Like in fitness, you're trying to continually get better and better and better and work at it and work at it and work at it. And reading is the same thing with your mind as you grow and like to learn to continually try to uh, just not stop improving and figuring things out. I've read a lot of like fitness books. I mean, even Ben Bergeron, one of the best CrossFit coaches out there, like his book was really cool to read, just like how he got into the minds of his athletes and how to unlock their potential. There's more correlation there than people realize.
Yeah, I did Chasing Excellence for July because it's
Yeah.
about preparing for the CrossFit Games, and the CrossFit Games are hosted in July. So I tried to create some like narrative and proper timing for some of the books as well.
Yeah.
You mentioned your book, Swords of Illumination. Is that what it is?
Yes. Swords of Elimination.
Have you read Chop Wood, Carry Water?
On the list. It's literally added to my Goodreads list this year, and I haven't gotten to it yet. But funny thing, another gym owner in a different state actually posted that book on his feed a few months ago, and that's when I added it to my reading list.
Yeah, it's a really good one. I mean, the way you describe the Swords of Illumination, it's very story based. It's a bunch of can't think of the proper word, fables, essentially, sort of
okay.
life lessons layered into the story of a kid's pursuit to become a samurai archer.
Yeah.
So it is kind of
Very similar
delivered
book.
in a very a fictional story that has a lot of really deep wisdom layered into it.
Yeah.
It's actually a pretty short one, so I think you could probably just like hammer through that one pretty quick. But
Yeah.
it's a good one, man.
Do you find your like the members of the gym, do you find that they reach out and ask you questions about the book, or do any of them like read it and then be like, dude, I read that book, thank you for the recommendation? Like,
Yeah, I get thank yous or like, oh, that's a good one, or like, oh, I've read that one before, and like things like that, or what's the next book? Like I get that a lot rather than I've only had a few where people actually like want to dive into the substance a little bit.
Yeah.
Really, it was just, it was probably more so when it was newer, but the fact that, that they're even acknowledging it kind of makes me feel good about it at the very
Yeah.
least.
Yeah.
Feel like I got the most traction when I tried to make them like silly, right? Like the videos
Yeah.
weren't nearly as serious. I was just like goofing around a bit
Yeah.
or trying to make them borderline like skit like, but that's just the engagement factor of
Yeah.
social media. So
Yeah.
it is what it
Well,
is.
it's cool because it's just another thing to bond over. We talk,
For sure.
CrossFit, TTT, and so gyms like community is such a big thing. And like one of my favorite things about CrossFit, I don't do it anymore, but I go to a gym and it's very community based. But being able to like talk about different things, like obviously you talk about your goals of fitness and you're encouraging, but being able to talk about intellectual things or things you're learning and give a recommendation. It doesn't have to be like a hardcore personal development book. Like I remember guys at the gym who were like they loved golf, and I was like, dude, I just read this Tiger Woods book, and it was the best book I think I've ever read. And the next thing I know, like they read it too. And they were like, dude, that was awesome. Like, but just another thing to bond over and build community around. I just think it's super cool that you do that because it's just something else for your members to have some engagement. And you're also, again, you're promoting. You talked about like we're training physically, but like what are we doing mentally to stay sharp and grow and
Right. And
optimize.
it doesn't always have to be about like getting better or improvement or like staying
Very true.
sharp. It could absolutely just be of like, man, I'm actually feeling dull and I'm feeling kind of down and like what can I do to reframe my thinking and just like like reflect upon my current circumstances. And sometimes you'll read a storyline that is more relatable than your even a friend telling you it's going to be okay, right? Sometimes you just need to work through that stuff on your own and absorbing information, whether it be audiobook, podcast, um, or even your own journaling and your own writing can do a lot
Yeah.
for yourself, right? So
Yeah.
the mental game of just like trying to figure out where your fulfillment and values are isn't always about like going from, you know, pursuing some like epiphany or like some like revelation. It's more about just like recentering yourself with your own values.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of times when you feel off, it's because there's a misalignment of like either your own expectations of how you wanted something to be or where you think you should be, or, why do I feel this way? And it's like, just recenter. And it's like, it's okay. It is what it is sometimes. And all you can do is focus on the next controllable task at hand, right? What's the
Yeah.
next step to your journey? Not dwelling on what happened yesterday or what is going on right now. It's like, well, what can you do about it?
Yeah. Dude, I love that. I'm actually glad you just said that because yeah, I was kind of talking and reading of like leveling up and leveling up. But like when I first started reading, kind of probably kind of like you, I had transferred schools in college. I didn't know anybody. I was redshirted, so I wasn't playing. I played football in school, but so I wasn't playing on the weekends. I was sitting at home alone in my apartment. Again, kind of like on my own journey. I don't know, trying to figure things out. And that's when I started reading, just because I didn't know what else to do, and I kind of felt off. I was like, I don't know, maybe I'll just read a book. And I was reading about athletes but then kind of, not intentionally, like I read about some of their struggles and like how they got through things in life. And I was like, oh, this was like really great timing. I'm glad that I'm like going through this. And like, it helped me kind of switch my mindset a little bit. And I was like, dang, I'm really glad like I started picking up these books because it's made such an impact on me. But I was just as you were saying that, you were saying it wasn't to like get better. It was just I was kind of off in my own world and like I was like, I don't know, I guess I'll read a book about somebody and it ended up having something that resonated with me and helped me.
Yeah. And I mean, you touched on a good point, like as well, of like, you're talking about changing schools, going into a new environment. Unfortunately, you were redshirted that season, and so you didn't make some great connection or bond with your teammates yet. And I shared my story of like, oh, I moved around the country a couple times and like went into new communities and new gyms, and I just changed careers, and I'm in a new space too. And I think that the beauty of whether it be like I'm going to speak from the lens of a gym and fitness and like group classes and that type of thing, but I think as long as someone has a hobby of like-minded people in a circle of,
Yeah.
like I said, like-minded people, as long as people have a circle of friends that have similar interests and you have a hobby to pursue or something to work towards, generally life feels pretty good.
Yeah.
Generally,
Yeah.
right? And so it's like bonding, to your point, bonding over books or sharing interests through literature can absolutely just be another step towards finding connections with like-minded people that will only make your life better.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that approach. Just again, I'm super like community focused, and I think again, you don't have to like do tons and tons of things to try and create it, but just having that one little thing you do each month of book of the month, like I'm sure there are people there that appreciate that so much that because they enjoy reading and they're probably looking forward to Harley's next post of what's the book, what I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to it. And so creating just that little thing for your gym community and really for all. I mean, anyone can follow you and see what the book of the month is, and that's how I, obviously saw that's what you were doing. And so even us who haven't talked in a long time, I was like, all right, what's Harley's book of the month? Like, I can't wait to see what it is. And it just created that connection for us, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was good, man.
Yeah. Well, so one question I ask everyone who comes on the podcast, what's a book, what's been your favorite book? Or what's a book that's resonated with you that you just got a lot out of? Or if someone says, Harley, like, what's the best book you ever read? Like, what would you recommend to somebody? You
That's a
can't
tough
say
one, man.
Atomic Habits.
I won't. And I can't say chop wood, carry water because I already talked about that too.
Yeah, we already talked about that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that from an application, this isn't like a book that you'd read start to finish. It's more of like a tool that you can lean on and look at when and where you feel inclined. Like the Daily Stoic to me is just something that is a good resource to get a glimpse into a different perspective than
Mhm.
what you may be feeling in a certain moment. And every day is obviously a different top or a different excerpt. So whether you feel happy, sad, neutral, indifferent, you're really stressed, you're really busy, you actually have downtime, or you feel like, you need something more in life, really, it is going to give you just a dose of information and a dose of perspective. And it may be completely irrelevant to a given day, but sometimes it hits really hard. And it's like, oh, I needed that one, or it's like, man, I didn't really think about that. So I think it's just a good tool, like a toolbox, in itself of resources layered into just excerpts from philosophers that are far wiser than anyone I
Yeah.
know. But
Yeah.
um yeah, I mean, that's a good one, but it's not necessarily like a start to finish type
Yeah.
read, right?
Yeah. No, that's all right. Do you try to read daily, or is it something where you're just like when you're in the mood you read, or what's your, I guess, like for me, I try to read a chapter a day. Like I think people think now that I have books for guys, they're just like, oh, Chris just reads all day every day. And I'm like, no, I actually have other stuff to do too. I try to read every day, but sometimes it's tough. But do you try to like set a goal or focus on it, or do you just kind of let it come organically and read as you can?
Lately, I feel, unfortunately, in between the time that you asked me to do this podcast and now, I've read the least of
Yeah.
like the last year, unfortunately. But it's just with the new role, right? The new job just took up a lot more time, energy, stress, and focus than I had to give at times. And really before this job I was training for a mountain biking race, so I was on the bike in the basement alone for 90 minutes to 2.5 hours like 5 days a week.
Yeah.
So I would just consume information like crazy via
Yeah.
audiobooks.
Audiobooks, yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely more of an audiobook person because I've been using them as an easy effort aerobic like stimulus, right? Like whenever I'm moving for long periods of time and I actually can think about stuff,
Yeah.
instead of just like zoning out to music, I didn't feel like that was very productive, or like watching a movie on the TV. Like I thought that consuming audiobooks and thinking about how I can work on my own self again. I ended up reworking back through a lot of books I had read in my early 20s, and it had been, 8 years. And I think that it was still, I found more value in them the second, third time through. So like I'm working back through Obstacles the Way right now. And so I've listened to that if the last couple runs I've went on,
Yeah.
but it hasn't been as consistent as I would have liked.
Yeah.
So it
Well,
goes
that's
through phases, go through waves.
yeah, yeah. Well, and it's cool that, and I was talking to, so a couple of different things there. I was talking to someone the other day who's read a book 4 or 5 times throughout the last 15 years, and how different lessons are taken from it because of your stage in life, how it's changed over that time. So it's good to go back, like books that you actually enjoyed reading and rereading them at some point, because you're probably going to take something maybe a little different away, just because again you're growing up, you're doing different things, there's different things in your world that weren't there 5, 6 years ago, and there's different things that have happened. So, but also I asked that question because I was actually talking to a business owner earlier, and he made a good point to me. He's like, dude, sometimes you can get so stressed when like trying to read, and you're like, you set a goal and you have all these books, and he's like, you can't read every book in the world. Like, you can't do that. He's a big audiobook guy too, but he was like, dude, I love going for runs now and turning on an audiobook because I can, like, that's just when I'm able to think it through and get the most from it. Still gotta get on the audiobook train because I'm a big believer of it. I just and it's so hard to get through books when you're just reading the physical copy. Because again, I'm like you, like I would love to get on a bike or treadmill and just be able to, I can get through so many more books. Because I'll ask people, I'll be like, dude, how many books did you read? And they'll be like, oh, I read 50 last year. I'm like, how'd you read 50 books last year?
It's
And they're
because
like, audio.
they're just letting it play. Yeah, they're just letting it
Yeah.
play, and that kind of comes to what I was thinking about the rereading, re-listening to
Yeah.
approach is like, yeah, if I potentially zone out while on a run, it's like, man, I just missed half a chapter, right? Sometimes I'll flip back to the beginning of the chapter the next time I start a run to maybe pick up on something I missed. But, it's probably not a perfect system. And maybe the next time I listen to it again, there's actually a portion that I actually missed the first time through because I was zoned out or tired or, not
Yeah.
really focusing on my headphones. And,
Yeah.
then I actually just learned something new because I missed it. Right. So
Yeah.
the audiobook thing is not perfect, not claiming it to be, but it is definitely a way that you can consciously and subconsciously consume a little bit more
Yeah.
information, right?
We were actually talking about like lining it up, training, like when you're running fast or riding fast, it's a little bit harder to listen to an audiobook. So like that's when I listen to music, and he was talking about how when he tries to like tone his running down and to say like, hey, I'm going to do 6 to 8 miles, it's going to be at a slower pace. That's when he listens to certain books, because that's when he can like it slows him down to listen. But if he's going too fast, then he skips it and his mind races and your ideas are going. So it's a little bit harder.
Well, once that heart rate goes up, it's hard to pay attention to much else,
You're
you're
just
just
trying to
breathing
breathe.
hard, just huffing and puffing, struggling. Yeah, I ran a little bit today, and it was like a minute and a half hard and 33 minutes easy, and I probably missed some stuff today, which is okay,
Yeah.
but I'm not gonna
Yeah,
stress
I can
it.
imagine that'd be a little hard to focus on a book.
I've been u Yeah. I've been using, so another tip or trick that I actually picked up on this year for my continued education for like training, certifications, that type of thing. It may not be exactly books, right? Like that's training and trying to pursue knowledge or higher level for my job. But I'm sure you could use this in any form of text. But I figured out how to make my laptop read to me, which has been really, really
Uh,
helpful because I actually have a really hard time consuming like written word. Like
yeah,
I ended up rereading the same line like 3 times because I'm just like, oh man, like I, for whatever reason, just like the way that can absorb information is much more effective through audio and or lectures. Like I remember in college, I would have the hardest time reading overnight. They'll say, "Hey, read chapter 3 today." And I'm like, that's going to take me 2 hours. Like because for whatever reason, reading itself was really hard. But I took such good notes in class and absorbed the information when through conversations with the teacher that I never really struggled to pass a class, but like I could never read the
yeah,
recommended readings. Like I
yeah.
don't know how I passed college because I never read the recommended readings. Yeah,
No.
once I figured out that little trick with the laptop reading to me, it's been a game changer. So if you
Yeah.
have some listeners out there that are on the audiobook train, that's definitely a worthwhile hack.
Yeah. Dude, well, thanks for sharing that because that's not something anyone has shared before. That again, I mean, kind of with Books for Guys, I'm trying to like there's different ways you can read, there's different ways you can consume, these books and don't want anyone to feel like you've got to be just a nerd to pick up a heavy book and read it. Like there's so many easy reads out there and so many things you can gain from short books, audio books. Like you said, like have it read it to you, through your
Yeah, from
laptop.
like a
Like,
PDF. Yeah,
yeah,
it's all you need is a PDF file or an ebook, anything like that, and you just highlight the paragraph, hit the right buttons on your keyboard, and it'll start dictating to you in a little robot voice, which isn't the most soothing,
yeah.
but if you want the information, you're gonna get it. So
Yeah, maybe with like some AI that'll fix it. I've got these like the Ray-Ban Meta glasses now, and I've got oh, who's the wrestler? I don't know. I've got a wrestler that actually is the voice through my AI now. Which, if he read a book to me, that would be kind of cool.
that'd be really cool.
So
Who's
maybe
the
that'll do
wrestler?
it
Is it
good too.
Macho Man?
John Cena. His name was
John
like John
Cena?
Cena. Yeah. So if
There
I'm
we
ever
go.
wearing my Ray-Ban glasses and you hear it, it's John Cena talking to me.
Nature Boy screaming "woo" in your ear over
Yeah.
and over again.
Yeah, it's it's
That would be
it's just
hilarious.
different, it's better than the robot
Yeah,
voice. But
absolutely.
yeah. Well, Harley, man, dude, thank you again for just taking the time to talk about this stuff. Because again, I'm just out for Books for Guys. Like, I want young men to realize like how important reading is, and we talked about it. Like, yeah, and me personally, I didn't start reading until after college, almost, to where I really started enjoying it. And some of those books I wish I would have read in high school or leading into college, just because of how many lessons I could have learned, what I could have done with that as far as my education or building a business or learning about finances and just things I could have taken away earlier. And so just trying to highlight people like yourself who like, dude, your passion's fitness, but you realize like books are important. You gain a lot from reading and learning, and whether that be fitness related or not fitness related, like there's things you've taken from different books that you've been able to apply to your life as you've grown. And just want young men to know the importance of that and just be open-minded to learning that way. And so, dude, I appreciate you coming on here because I just think you're someone that's really cool. And I think young men would be like, well, if Harley is reading books, then maybe I should too. So it means a lot, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on, man. And like, I think the point that I would like to drive home with my presence is that just because you don't think you're a good reader or you can't absorb written text, like find a way, find some tools and read anything that interests you, right? Whether it be fiction, nonfiction, or whatever, is going to get you to consume a different perspective and form your own views of the world, because that's really all we're trying to do as people is create our own world around our values and what we care about.
Yeah. No, love that, man. And we'll put your Instagram handle in the podcast notes. So if anybody, has questions for you or even wants to talk to you about that specifically, like, hey man, thanks for saying that. Like, I want to read. Now I know how I can do more of it. So dude, yeah, thank you so much, Harley. And man, just keep doing what you're doing.
Sure, man. Thank you.